Hi everyone, my name is LD Dong. I'm from East Cyber Force. Today I'm going to show you how to monitor the internet service using the Patent Pending MacroProbe. So let's start. First start with setting the policy that we want to monitor. So in policy management, we check off the internet service, whether we want to monitor or we also want to analytic on the internet service, as well as we want to monitor and do analytic on the custom internet service. Custom internet service are all these custom TCP and generic INA application that are flowing on your network that are not specific to HTTP. So that's how we classify them as that. So once we set that, we go to service monitor and we pick the internet DNS to HTTP service monitoring. This is looking at the dependency between DNS server and HTTP server in the end-to-end service delivery of the internet service. Now, typical when you type in HTTP google.com, the client send a DNS request to the local DNS server to resolve the domain google.com, of which the local DNS server sent back the local Google IP address, and of which the client sent an HTTP request to the local Google IP address for the Google service. That's what we typically monitoring for this internet service. So let's look at this. So we're going to look at, we can look at analyze performance or error of the internet service. So let's first look at performance of the internet service for the last 7 days. So we want to sort this out for the worst DNS performance. So we'll pick the DNS server that have the worst response time and drill down into the HTTP flow that use that bad bad performing DNS server, and we have these two HTTP flow that use it, that DNS server, and we can pick the worst responding HTTP flow and drill down and chart it out on the interdependency between the DNS server response time and the HTTP server response time at every epoch in time of interest to us, and analyze at each point, like we do it right here. So that's the typical internet service performance. Now if we want to look at internet service error, we go back to service monitor and internet service monitor, and we look at error for internet service for the last 7 days. And what we do is that we're going to sort in the worst server failure error on the DNS server, and we pick the DNS server that have the worst DNS server failure error, and we're going to drill down into the most error dependent HTTP flow. And we see that there are two HTTP flows that depend on that worst DNS server, and we're going to sort these HTTP flow for the worst HTTP response time. Worst 4xx error, and we're going to chart it out for the DNS error and HTTP 4xx error, and we see that the two server errors are superimposed on one another, and we can see at every epoch in time whether they are interdependency, and we can analyze the chart when there's a report of problem. So that's for the internet service analysis. Now we look at the custom custom internet service monitor, generic and custom. These are the TCP applications that are not very specific HTTP, and they are typically resolved by DNS server for access to the network resource. Could be application server, email, or anything like that. So let's look at this, and we're going to look at performance of the custom and generic internet service for the last 7 days. And what we do is that we're going to sort by the worst responding DNS server, and we're going to drill down into a dependent TCP app that use that DNS server. And in that, we're going to sort by the worst response time of the TCP app server. And from that, we're going to drill down into the dependent TCP app server. And we know that there's only one in there, and we're going to chart it out. And we can see the interdependency between the DNS server and the HTTPS server of their respective response time at every epoch in time when they are correlated. Now, for analyzing the generic and custom internet service error, we're going to look at the last 7 days, and for that we're going to sort by the worst DNS server with the server error failure, and we're going to drill down into the most error dependent TCP app, and on that we're gonna correlate with HTTPS server, HTTPS application, and we'll see that there's a correlation between the DNS server failure and HTTPS application TCP reset. That concludes our session. Thank you for viewing.